Greetings, my fellow freedom loving silent thinkers. This is LL3 Viewers Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Swampy Mangoes of South Florida. And today's date, Monday, January 9th, 2017. Yeah, I'm just kicking back, chilling at the CJ's Java Lounge, located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue, along the beautiful New Rivers of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Little mom and pop place. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. Free Wi-Fi, pet friendly, and you don't have to go to those big coffee chains. You know what I'm saying? All right, yeah. I was like reading some of the stuff in Sunset Jose, gritty life on the streets, and of course it's called Santiago, sought privacy in trailer parks and flop homes, and Scott Israel's making his stink about no people in the mentally ill, no fly list shouldn't have guns. So I'll be talking about that. And let me see here. A few other things are happening as well. But the main topic I got my eye caught on here. It's actually came from mintpressnews.com, and this one's entitled "UN Peacekeepers accused of raping African children will not be charged." So this is by Jesse Tremblay. And of course, it says here a panel of French judges has decided not to bring charges against soldiers accused of having sexually abused children while on a peacekeeping mission in the Central African Republic. It says here a panel of French judges has decided not to bring charges against soldiers accused of having sexually abused children while on peacekeeping mission in the Central African Republic. The accusations have a troubling back history and detailed in the December 2015 independent report on the situation. The 70-page report heavily scrutinized not only the possible role for UN peacekeepers in child abuse cases in alien African nations, but also the failure of UN officials to react in a proper manner. Among those accused of failing in their role in this situation were the head of the UN mission, CAR, UNICEF, and the UN human rights staff at CAR. Interesting. There are inadequate measures taken to protect the children before the event and an absolute failure to consider their health after the event. Allegedly, no one within the organization wants to take responsibility for the issue and as such infringe on the victim's human rights to report it and impugn the bureaucratic nature of the United Nations. Fairs at all levels have led to citizens in CAR to protest the presence of the UN in their country, which led to 4 deaths and 14 injured. Even more troubling is the fact that the Central African Republic has one of the lowest ratings on UN's Human Development Index. These children were most helpless kind of victims, and could be a sign that the UN was hoping to ride the situation out with the hope that no one would pick up the story. In fact, the report notes that the head of the HRJS encouraged the SRSG Senegalese Army General of Minyuka to keep allegations quiet due to the political sensitivity of the allegations. The report demands that the UN adhere to a zero-tolerance policy in regards to actions like this and made 12 recommendations, you can see below, to prevent future debacles like this in the future. While there have been firings involved in this case, including SRSG, the nature of today's ruling makes us question how serious the UN is about to follow these recommendations. Number one, acknowledge that sexual exploitation and abuse by peacekeepers, whether or not the alleged perpetrator is under UN command, is a form of conflict-related sexual violence to be addressed under the UN's human rights policy. Two, create a coordination unit in OHCHR reporting directly to the Higher Commission for Human Rights to oversee and coordinate responses to conflict-related sexual violence, including a monitoring, reporting, and follow-up of the allegations of sexual abuse, while analyzing data with the view to tracking trends and practices for the purpose of improving prevention and accountability and following up the implementation of the panel's recommendation. 3. Creating a working group to support coordination unit made up of experts, including specialists skilled in addressing sexual violence by international forces and representatives of TCCs. The working group should develop a single policy harmonizing the SEA and human rights policies and develop processes promoting criminal accountability for sexual violence. 4. Require mandatory and immediate reporting of all allegations of sexual violence. 2. The head of the human rights component in the field or mission, or the reporting officer, and in the case of sexual violence against children, the child protection officer, as well as UNICEF and the SRSG-CAAC, and in the case of sexual violence against adults, the SRSG on sexual violence and conflict, and the coordination unit, XVI. 5. Establish under the authority of the coordination, a professional investigative team available for immediate deployment when conflict related sexual violence by peacekeepers is reported. 6. Task the working group with reviewing UN policies dealing with confidentiality in order to establish a proper balance by informed consent, protection, and accountability. 7. Establish a trust fund to provide specialized services to victims of conflict related to sexual violence. 8. Negotiate with TCC's provisions ensuring prosecution, including by granting hosts and countries subsidiary jurisdictions to prosecute crime of sexual violence by peacekeepers. 9. To negotiate the inclusion in agreements with TCC's of provisions ensuring transparency and cooperation in accountability processes. 10. Adopt an approach to immunity that presumes cooperation and active participation of UN staff in accountability processes. 11. Negotiate with all TCC's provisions for screening troops that are minimally equivalent to the standards described in the HRDDP. 12. Maintain a comprehensive and up-to-date human rights database hosted by OHCHR. And this one here is 170 pages long. Okay, and the document taking action on sexual exploitation and abuse of peacekeepers. And this came out December 15th, 2015. And I'll just go down here on the allegations. And lots of here on here, investigation, reporting, follow-up. I'll just go to conclusion. I'll probably just leave it at that. But one thing I always tell folks, that's why I like to see the United States get out of the United Nations, because they are one corrupt entity that wants to rule the world. And this is just an example. It's happening in many parts of areas in Africa, including Rwanda, and even cases in Haiti, which are a lot of them being slaughtered by peacekeeping troops there as well. It's been going on for I remember reading about this like 15 years ago. And I did a story on it by the New American. And so I just want to look at here for the time being. One moment, see if I can find it. Okay, I'm just. Yeah, conclusions. Peacekeeping missions are often a measure of a last resort to protect civilians in circumstances of extreme conflict and play a critical role in allowing both governments and communities to rebuild and move forward. The importance of such work, the inherited challenges in peacekeeping, and the personal sacrifice that individual peacekeepers make to achieve them should not be underestimated. Indeed, in the case of CAR, peacekeepers, including French Sangaris forces, very likely to averted the death of thousands of innocent civilians, yet the persistence of serious crimes against vulnerable local population perpetrated by some of their individuals charged with protecting them puts themselves at risk in the sustainability of peacekeeping missions in the longer term. Indeed, the fact that problem persists despite several expert reported commission by the UN over the last 10 years only serves to exacerbate and perception that the UN is more concerned with rhetoric than action. So I'm going to tell us how far I'm going to go on that, and it's absolutely disturbing when you look at these things. So that's why I'm always tell folks about the United Nations more than a global deception, and we need to get out of it as far as I'm concerned. If you don't agree, fine, just let me know and give me your meritable viewpoints, and we'll just take it from there, all right? Okay, next one here is a little thing on after the shootings, because what happened is Esteban Santiago is may be facing a death penalty if convicted. So this is what his sheriff has to say about this. About sheriff suggests no gun list for mentally ill. People with mental illnesses should have no access to should not have access to guns. Broward Sheriff Scott Israel said Sunday, 2 days after an alleged gunman with known psychological issues killed 5 people at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport. Something has got to change. Israel said in an interview with the Sun Sentinel. Esteban Santiago, 26, a suspected shooter, is under suicide watch at the Broward County Jail. Israel said it is scheduled to appear before a federal judge on Monday, which has already been done. Besides the dead, 6 other people were shot. No names have been officially been released. If people suffering from mental illness, in my opinion, should not be able to buy, possess, or carry a handgun or rifle or any type of firearm. Convicted felons the same. People who are on the no-fly list is the same, the sheriff said. We shouldn't be selling weapons and allowing them to carry weapons. So if you're on a no-fly list without due process, he supports it. So right there, Sheriff Israel does it again. Another oath breacher that he that but he installed he got installed twice now under Article 2, Section 5 to protect and defend both U.S. and Florida constitutions. And you know what? He breached that oath. So another unmeritable sheriff, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to the no-fly list. He wants to be judge, jury, executioner. To hell with him. All right, I will continue on. Israel calls on lawmakers to step up to the plate. Not just tell them to shove it up his, you know what. They need to be sick and tired of burying Americans in these mass murder acts. He said we need to take guns out of the hands of people that are suffering from mental illness. So who's going to determine that, right? Oh, absolutely. Israel didn't know what form the laws should take, but said people diagnosed with mental health illness issues should be on the same type of list as the mandatory that they are not come in possession of firearms. So he wants to play nanny. Florida law already states any person who has been adjudicated mentally defective or have been committed to a mental institution by court cannot buy a firearm. Any person ruled mentally incompetent cannot possess a firearm, which I call it as a viewpoint, but how's it going to really hold water, right? The sheriff says he has compassion for the mentally ill. Those people are not problem people. They're people with real problems. Israel did not attend Santiago's interrogation, but said he spoke with detectives and the FBI. Santiago said he was being controlled. He spoke for a chip that he was put in his head, and he talked about being forced to watch videos of ISIS and things of that nature, Israel said. Then there were times later on when he spoke about being hired by ISIS. George Pyro, the special agent in charge of the FBI's Miami field office, has stated it was too soon to determine if this was a terrorist act, but the Bureau couldn't rule out terrorism either. Sheriff planned to meet with law enforcement and the airlines to decide whether airport security needed to be improved beyond the current checkpoints, but he added that it's impossible to protect every large public venue in America. Of course, you're human beings. All right. Something happened in Santiago's life, and it sparked violent behavior and mass murder, Israel said. Investigators still don't have a reason for Santiago selecting the airport for his act. I know why. In my honest viewpoint, it's a household name. People know about Fort Lauderdale. All right. Investigators still don't have a reason for Santiago selecting. I already said that. We have no understanding at this time why he chose Fort Lauderdale, Israel said. Good grief. Of course. It's obvious. Come on. So, but when he especially wants to use the no-fly list, if you're on a no-fly list without due process, you shouldn't own a firearm. This is how intelligent this sheriff is. Another tyrannical man that wants to be compassionate, sell you something which is unconstitutional. I don't mean the right to bear arms, but your natural born rights under Article 1, Section 2 of the Florida Constitution entitled Basic Rights. All right, so we're going to continue on here because he wants to put his 2 cents in about this next bill, which New American talked about. And I talked about in my last episode, but this one here will be a little more detailed. This proposed Florida concealed carry bill could have saved lives. Could, but there's no guarantees. But there's an interesting article here, and this was done by, what's his name? Oh, Bob Beldman. All right. It says here 5 people were killed and 6 more suffered gunshot wounds on Friday at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport when Esteban Santiago took out a gun. He had checked from Anchorage, Alaska, loaded in the baggage claim area's restroom, and began shooting. When Florida State Representative Jake Ryburn, Republican from Lithia, learned on Friday's shooting, he told Sentinel, "I do personally feel like had this bill been in place already, there could have been potential for people to protect themselves in this situation." Robin was referred to a bill HB 6001 that he filed on November 23rd that would have allowed those carrying concealed to do so in any part of the airport that is outside of the secure area protected by metal detectors. Robin told the Miami Herald there was always a potential if it were allowed there was something in that area that had a concealed weapon that could have gone differently. I'm not going to say that it would have, because my understanding is we're talking about a span of time, but that's less than a minute. It might not have changed anything, but I've been there. But if I had been there waiting to pick up my family from the airport and it happened near me, I would have been prepared to defend myself and my family. State Senator Greg Steube, Republican from Sarasota, filed a similar bill, SB 140, on December 9th, but his would open up gun-free zones currently in places at government meetings, schools, and colleges, said Rob Byrne. While I have supported other bills that are rolled into Senator Sub's package, that this was the one was most important to me. I carry my weapon wherever I go, but I travel a lot, and it's something I thought about a lot as I have to comply with the law. Sabi's bill is currently before the Senate Judiciary Committee, while Roberts has not yet been assigned to a committee for review. Florida legislative session starts in March, and if if the bills, if passed, will both go in effect July 1st. Broward County Sheriff Scott Israel is opposed to Roberts' bill. He declared, "I'm opposed to it as I'm opposed to open carry in schools. It makes us less safe, as would hinder law enforcement by legally allowing potential active shooters to openly carry their deadly weapons right into the airports to carry out their heinous attacks." Could you explain why, Sheriff Israel, is Mr. Santiago open up fire at a gun-free zone? So stop double speaking. With all due respect, sorry, Sheriff Israel, robbery bills apply to concealed carry, not open carry. The predator firearms make those locations more safe, not less. See John Locke's book, More Guns, Less Crime. Potential active shooters already carrying their deadly weapons right into airports. See Fort Lauderdale shooting. Weapons are only deadly when they are misused. Then, you know what? He's correct on that one. So you tell him to be quiet, Sheriff. Israel expanded on his misunderstanding when you have a person who could be suffering from a severe mental illness, or you have what we call a lone wolf assassin ready to conduct some cowardly, heinous act. There is not much law enforcement or anybody else can do about it. You're partially correct, Scott Israel. When seconds count, law enforcement is minutes away. Only possible defense against such lone wolf assassins or someone suffering from severe mental illness is a person who is already on the spot and is legally carrying a concealed, trained in the defense use of his firearm. Otherwise, Scott Israel, you and your people would be conducting forensics following such cowardly, heinous acts. And he is correct on that as well, because sovereign immunity, tort liability, which is 768.28, okay, on the Florida statute, the public employers aren't really liable or can't have a liability case on them when it comes to certain emergencies like this. So, in other words, the police aren't obligated to protect you as an individual. And even the Florida Supreme Court addressed that on Wong versus the City of Miami in the case 1970. I know I've posted these in the past, but if you know about this, look it up. Don't be shy. All right. It was predictable that another Florida representative, this time House member Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the disgraced former head of the DNC, would weigh in on the matter. And any Second Amendment politician, Schultz said, "We need to take a hard look at the security around baggage claim areas. There are many unsecured areas and facilities where the public travels, so certainly those procedures need to be reviewed. I'm going to be addressing that when I go back to Washington." You know what? Just go back to your home in what's that place called? Southwest Acres. All right, just hang out in your hole. Don't even go back to Washington, dumb down Debbie. I'm sorry. Known as the Gunshine State for its relatively light touch on the right to keep and bear arms, Florida is way behind the curve when it comes to concealed carry in airports. 44 states allow lawful concealed carry firearms in common terminal and baggage claims areas at airports. Florida is just one of 6 states that puts the entire terminal off limits to firearms, making it one of the most restrictive states in the country in that regard. There you go. Another farm free zone blunder. Sorry, Scott Israel, but you're not Superman. The BSO are not our lords and saviors. All right, plain and simple. They're human beings like everybody else. And I'm not gonna, if I'm like this, I'm gonna be critical towards these elected servants, but it's not a direct personal attack, but it's mainly principle. Because my natural born right to protect myself, my family, that is my obligation, and he can't be there to play Superman. All right, so that's why I support these bills before. It's been proven time and time again. It does help out a lot more, and even even the law enforcement can cooperate with the people. All right, in these areas and in good faith. Of course, we gotta be citizens gotta be vigilant towards these governmental entities, but in situations like this, you can still work together. It's nothing, not that. Things can gel, but they want to believe that you got to leave all your security eggs in the hands of these particular group, which is nothing more and respectfully a pipe dream in a overall case. Doesn't mean they'll make bad decisions. I'm not going to say that. However, it has people or individuals are in the first line of the defense. All right, this is something interesting happened here. It happened, it's from Activist Post, and it happened in Tampa, Florida, by Matt Argris. Watch as cops raid charity, arrest 7 volunteers for feeding the homeless. Wow, how manly are they, right? Let's check on here. When feeding willing, hungry people becomes illegal, that is telling a sign of bureaucratic police state. And in the ostensible land of the free, the forces of such arbitrary and cruel laws have no problem kidnapping and locking people in the cage for helping those in need. In fact, it happens on a regular basis. Most recent case, police cracking down on carrying people who dare to give organic rice and beans to the hungry happened over the weekend in Tampa. Members of the charitable group Food Not Bombs gathered Saturday afternoon to hand out hot coffee and bagels to Tampa's homeless community. However, their good deed was thwarted by people who quickly arrested 7 other people serving the food and one homeless man who dared to grab a bagel from the table after the cops ordered everyone to stop eating. My nannies! All hail to nannies and badge. All right, the entire horrendous deprivation of liberty was streamed live to Facebook by Aaron Sauer is nothing short of the infuriatingly asinine. Why would a dozen cops send a group of volunteers donating their food for the willing of the people who need it? Well, Food Not Bombs failed to pay extortion fee to the city in form of a permit. We need permission to feed the homeless. Food Not Bombs is not some fly-by-night charity looking to rustle feathers by illegally distributing food to homeless. The group sets up to feed the homeless at least twice a week, so obtaining a permit and purchasing the city required insurance policy is too pricey to be unsustainable. When kind of when kind-hearted people have a limitless supply of money to grease the status skids and pay their extortion fees to remove all the red tape, they become outlaws. The good news is that the group is made up of brave people who are unafraid to disobey unjust laws. In an email to CL Tampa, a spokesperson for the group noted that Food Not Bombs has no plans to stop sharing food with the homeless and hungry and will continue to defy unjust laws that criminalize compassion and mutual aid. Unfortunately, in the land of free, feeding the homeless has become a revolutionary act. Cities across the country are cracking down on good people like those at Food Not Bombs who simply want to feed the needy. Last December, the Dallas, Texas City Council enacted ordinance number 2958595, which makes it illegal to serve food to the homeless without jumping through a status myriad of bureaucratic hoops, including a fee, training classes, and written notices. Well, you gotta be trained to feed, huh? However, the folks over the aptly named organization Don't Comply acted in a similarly brave manner as Food Not Bombs and took the streets outside of the Austin Street shelter in Dallas. However, members of the Don't Comply had guns. They were not shut down. The group successfully fed thousands of homeless people. Hey, when you're armed and you're feeding the homeless, they step back real quick because they don't want a shootout, right? Exactly. It shows how tough these people are. They pee and crap like you and I, my friends, all right? We intend it. We intend to expose the city's cruelty and face the thousands in our community who are struggling with issues of food insecurity, mental and medical health issues, poverty, and homelessness. A spokesperson for Food Not Bombs said in the email, according to CL Tampa, if the city will not address these problems, the least they can do is not get in the way and stop others from addressing these needs. The compassion should never be criminalized, and I agree completely. And I would recommend all these folks who've been issued or cited for feeding the homeless in their towns. They like to do these calendar calls. They let you go there again and again and drag their feet so they could mentally deprive you and have you plead no contest. I've seen it happen so many times when I'm looking through these cases. The kids always got a calendar call, so you have to show up like a good little boy and go, "Okay, I'm here," and there's no case. As far as I'm concerned, you're in right to have a speedy trial and to have in front of a jury of your peers. And if you've ever been a jury in these cases, play dumb and take the case. And you know what? If you know there's no victim, there's no crime, say not guilty. You can send a message with jury notification. And this is why the people got to start. It's a great way of being in a proactive basis. So don't be afraid of the system, my friends. They need us more we need them. Okay, this is what these cities want because they want. We gotta find out ways to make money. We have to fill the jail. We have to fill the jails that is managed by private prison firms like CCA and Geo Group. That's how these clowns and con artist parasites think. So if there's no victim, where the hell? Why is that a crime? I'm still trying to figure that one out, right? Yeah, absolutely. All right. The next one here came out yesterday. It's from freethoughtproject.com. It says here, Peace Prize winning Obama gets DOD's highest honor for dropping 50K bombs on Muslims in 2 years. And all these people say the Muslims are evil, they're wicked. Oh, Barack Obama's a Muslim, right? Well, here's what Brandon Hines has to say. U.S. President Barack Obama was given the Department of Defense Medal for Distinguished Public Service as a token of appreciation for his service as Commander in Chief. At a farewell ceremony on January 4th, the medal is the highest honorary award as the Department of Defense and is presented by the Secretary of Defense. What a coincidence, huh? However, critics have said the award is similar to an employee giving his boss a participation trophy for supervising. The award comes days before a new report revealed President Obama authorized the United States military to drop more than 26,000 bombs in 7 countries during the 2016 calendar year. According to an estimate by the Council on Foreign Relations, more than 24,000 of those bombs were dropped in Iraq and Syria as part of Operation Inherent Resolve, which is a U.S.-led coalition against the Islamic State. The report itself says the actual number of bombs dropped is significantly higher because it does not release complete info about the number of munitions used for each mission. A total number of bombs dropped was at least 3,000 higher than 2015, and at least 22,000 of those were in Iraq and Syria against the Islamic State as well. The estimated total for 2 years is dropped, which means that the real total is likely over 50,000. The U.S. coalition has been questioned by many for its executions of the campaign because the U.S. allowed Islamic State to continue oil smuggling operations for over 1 year after bombing campaign started in September 2014 until a change of policy in November 2015. U.S. officials say they would not attack much of the oil trade infrastructure because of the threats to civilians who the U.S. claims played a significant part in the smuggling. His policy changed without credible public explanation, and during the same week that Russia began targeting ISIS oil, the strikes became part of a race with the Russians who began bombing operations in Syria less than 2 months before that in September 2015. The first reported strike by the U.S. on Islamic State oil trucks happened on November 16th, which is virtually at the same time that the Russian airstrikes on ISIS oil were beginning. On November 18th, Russia released videos of the airstrike from multiple days before, which likely means the U.S. airstrikes were after Russia began targeting the ISIS oil. It is not proven which strikes were first. However, Pentagon officials admit watching ISIS oil for over a year before they started bombing, but the first U.S. strike was likely within hours of the first Russian strike. U.S. officials have also been criticized by aid groups and Western news media for not admitting to a credible number of civilian deaths caused by U.S. airstrikes in Syria. The official total of civilian deaths admitted by U.S. officials was raised to 188 in the operation, which is over 2 years old. Humanitarian groups and local sources say the number is much higher, with multiple estimates in the thousands. In July 26, over 100 civilians were killed in multiple airstrikes in the town of Mandaji, Mamaji, including 77 in one attack. One of the U.S. airstrikes hit a children's hospital. Dozens of civilians were killed by U.S. bombs in Daku, Iraq, while attending a funeral in an area that was said to be no ISIS presence. The U.S. bombed two hospitals in the same month in the same city during operations in Mosul, Iraq. Both attacks caused an unknown number of civilian deaths. 2007, Apple CEO Steve Jobs unveiled first iPhone. Elizabeth Betty Short and Black Dahlia is seen as last seen alive. U.S. revealed in November 2016 that the military investigated 250 allegations of civilian casualties and deemed only 31 of them credible, just over 10% of the total. More than 60 Syrian soldiers were killed and over 100 injured in a U.S. airstrike on Syrian military positions near Deir Orzur in September 2016. Civilian soldiers were fighting a critical battle against ISIS when the attacks happened, which the U.S. called a mistake. The last attack lasted for almost an hour, involved multiple planes, and warnings from Russian officials were ignored. The incident was part of a chain event which led to the U.S. and Russia ending joint negotiations for a ceasefire in the Syrian proxy war in September. Russia accused U.S. officials of aiding the Islamic State in the United Nations Security Council meeting. It has become common knowledge that U.S. officials watched Islamic State grow for 2 years before taking action based on leaked intelligence reports or a conversation between the Secretary of State, John Kerry, was allowing Islamic State to grow as part of the strategy to weaken the Syrian government. Hillary Clinton and others also knew that Saudi Arabia and Qatar were funding Islamic State. According to leaked emails published by WikiLeaks, the CFR also reported report also showed that the U.S. dropped about at least 1,337 bombs in Afghanistan, where the U.S. is still fighting the Taliban after 15 years of war. Nearly 500 bombs were dropped in Libya as Islamic State fighters have moved into the country, while other Al-Qaeda groups have been fighting for the control of the country since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. There were 34 American bombs dropped in Yemen, where the U.S. is supporting Saudi Arabia's bombing campaign despite continued civilian deaths. Somalia was listed at 14, which is likely too low given the extended U.S. campaign against al-Shabaab and Al-Qaeda affiliated groups. And so he wins. So my Lord and Savior, bend over Bob to the New World Order, President Barack Obama, has the Medal for Defense for distinguished public service as a token of appreciation for his service as Commander-in-Chief. Can I go to the toilet and take a huge diuretic dump? Absolutely. That's how I look at this man. And I never really cared for him when I started doing my homework because his ethics are crap, regardless of what his skin color looks, what party he's in, etc. So don't give me that garbage because I didn't like the man because he's a mulatto. No. He's just another bellboy to the New World Order, and this is why people are hypocrites when they go after Donald Trump this and Trump that, and they still want to praise people like him. You guys are in the twilight zone as far as I'm concerned. You're not vigilant. You're just a bunch of Uncle Toms and Aunt Jemimas. And I recommend You better wake up or it's going to bite you in the rear when you least expect it. Okay? And I say that in good faith. All right, my friends, that's all for now. And I thank everyone for listening. So please feel free to download and share this information about your social media network. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something that's interesting, I may want to check out. Whatever you do, please deliver your correspondence with decorum. Keep me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, freedomsnetworkscene.life, or minds.com. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is LokiLuck, and the number 3 altogether at gmail.com. All right. Well, I'd like to thank Mark for putting up with me for doing my show at the CJ's Java Lounge. Chat with them. Tell them Craig sent you. All right. If you're from South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, come here. Pretty cool little place. Nice little vibe. Has character. Come on down. Have a cup of coffee or a nice sandwich. All right. Okay, my friends. Once again, thank you for your time. Let's always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you. And I goofed up on the progress here, but that's okay. Have a good night.